In the dusty outskirts of a forgotten mining town, a vibrant sunset painted the sky in hues of orange and crimson. The air was thick with the scent of musty wood and earth, mingling with whispers of past dreams buried deep in the hills. Among those dreams was Clara, a determined young woman with a fierce spirit and a longing for more than what life had offered so far. Clara had inherited her father's small plot of land, a mere shadow of what it once was, when the gold rush transformed the region into a bustling hub of activity. Yet, as the years passed, the excitement faded, and the town fell silent, with only the echoes of laughter and the clinking of pickaxes remaining. Everyone had left for the promise of riches elsewhere, but Clara stayed, thinking of her father's hopes and the dreams they once shared. One fateful morning, with the sun creeping above the horizon, she strapped on her sturdy boots and set out to explore the rugged hills that surrounded her property. The sharp rocks crunched beneath her feet, each step resonating with determination. Clara had always felt a connection to the land. It whispered secrets only she seemed to hear. As she made her way up the incline that led to an old mining site, a twinge of excitement coursed through her veins. She remembered her father's stories of rich veins of gold hidden in the treacherous terrain, tales of adventurers who disappeared chasing their dreams. Perhaps her time would come. Hours passed as she dug, her hands calloused from labor, but her heart full of hope. The sun was high when, out of sheer grit and perseverance, her shovel struck something solid below the surface. With a pounding heart, she knelt, her breath hitching as dirt flew through the air. An unexpected gleam caught her eye and she froze, eyes wide in disbelief. There it was, a nugget, firmly nestled in the earth, shimmering like a beacon of hope. It was the size of her fist, gold and heavy, and Clara could hardly believe it was real. She grasped it, her fingers curling around the weight that seemed to lift years of despair from her shoulders. Suddenly, she recalled the words of a drifter she had met months prior, a man with a deep voice and a wandering spirit. "This place don't deserve you," he had whispered, his gaze piercing through her. At that moment, those words hung heavy in her thoughts, an echo of possibility. So much had been lost to this unforgiving land. And now Clara was on the cusp of something extraordinary. With the nugget tucked safely in her satchel, Clara hurried back down the rugged trail, adrenaline fueling her urgency. Each step felt lighter, as though the weight of her dreams lifted her. She imagined a future painted with vibrant possibilities, new beginnings, fresh start, perhaps even leaving this desolate land for a city filled with life. But as she entered the town, the earlier exhilaration began to cool. Clara noticed the men at the saloon, their laughter booming and the children playing in the dirt. They looked at her with a mix of curiosity and pity, as if they had all seen her struggle and knew she was different. Her heart slowed, and doubts creeped in. What if they looked down on her for dreaming too big? What if they would mock her ambitions? She pushed those thoughts aside, determined to hold on to her victory. With new resolve, Clara made her way to Old Man Jenkins, the town's only jeweler and the closest thing to a friend she had. His shop was filled with dust and memories of once lively conversations about the future, a wall of shadowed hopes that echoed Clara's desire. Swinging the door open, she was greeted by the familiar bell's chime. "Her Clara?" Jenkins looked up from behind his counter, his smile fading as he studied her expression. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Not a ghost, just a discovery," she replied, her heart racing at the prospect of finally being seen. "I found something. Something real." He raised an eyebrow, skeptical yet intrigued. "Out in those hills again, are you? You know it's dangerous up there, don't you?" "Dangerous, yes, but worth it," she insisted, pulling out the nugget. "Look!" She placed it on the counter, her pulse racing as Jenkins examined the shiny treasure. His eyes widened, and Clara felt a flicker of triumph ignite within her. "By thunder, girl! This is a find worthy of acclaim. You might just be able to set sail for bigger waters after all." He looked at her then, a mixture of admiration and caution in his gaze. "But remember, not everyone will be happy about your good fortune." As those words lingered in the air, Clara's excitement dimmed slightly. She thought of the drifter's warning and the heavy weight of ambition. Would her discovery bring more than just gold? Would it turn friends into foes? That night, visions of what could be danced in her mind. Dreams of bustling cities and lives of adventure intertwined with fears of jealousy, of betrayal. She sat at her desk, the Nugget shimmering like a star, but the blinding reality of the challenge ahead loomed just as large. It was then a knock echoed through her cabin. Heart racing, she opened the door to find the drifter standing there, his silhouette framed against the moonlit sky. "I had a feeling you'd find something," he said, his voice deeper in the quiet of the night. Clara swallowed hard, not expecting to see him again. "I did, but it's more complicated than I thought. I know the look. It's the weight of dreams, isn't it? But dreams can become chains if you let the world decide their worth for you." His words settled heavily in the air between them, stirring something deep within Clara. "What do you mean?" "I've seen good people crushed under the weight of greed and fear. This town, it can warp a person, twist them. You have something incredible. It can change your life, but it can also draw out the darkness. Choose wisely, Clara." With a sigh, she stepped aside, inviting him in. "Stay with me. I need to talk." They spent hours sharing stories, dreams and fears, the boundaries of the outside world fading into the background. As dawn broke, Clara felt the weight of her choice settling within her. The Nugget was not just a piece of gold, it was a key to a new future, a test of character and mettle. With the drifter at her side, she would decide her fate, not letting anyone dictate her worth. And in those hills, the earth thrummed with the promise of adventure, waiting to tell Clara's story. And she was ready to listen. As the sun climbed higher, casting golden rays over the dusty streets, Clara felt a newfound spark igniting within her. The drifter, whose name she learned was Jake, stirred a restless energy in her spirit. They spent the early hours plotting their next steps, debating what to do with Clara's newfound discovery. "First things first," Jake said, leaning against the worn table. "You need a safe place to keep that Nugget. If word gets out, you could have more than just admirers coming your way." Clara's heartbeat quickened at the thought of prowling eyes and greedy hands. "You think someone would try to take it?" "Absolutely. Folks get desperate when they see a chance to escape this place. Be wary of smiles that hide daggers." With those words hanging in the air, Clara gathered her determination. She needed a plan. "I'll sec this Nugget with Old Man Jenkins. He can keep it safe until I decide what to do next." Jake nodded in agreement. "Good idea. But you also need to consider your next move. You can sell it, of course, but that could attract unwanted attention. Perhaps better to trade it for something more valuable, supplies, livestock, or even a stake in a venture away from here." Clara felt overwhelmed, yet empowered. "What if I bought a ticket to a city, somewhere with opportunities?" "Just be prepared for the journey. The roads are as dangerous as the gold rush itself." Determined, she locked eyes with Jake. "I'll face whatever comes my way." With a shared sense of urgency, they started making plans. Over the next few days, they scoured the town for supplies, gathering blankets, food, and anything that could aid in their escape. Each transaction was tense. Clara could feel the watchful eyes of the townsfolk, their gazes lingering just a moment too long. The Nugget felt like a star on her chest, shining its light through the grayness of her surroundings. As they prepped for their journey, Clara met with Jenkins again, determined to keep her Nugget safe. His eyes twinkled as she recounted her plans for the future. "You've got fire in you, Clara," he mused, examining the piece of gold. "Hey, it's a good thing, though it can burn those around you. Remember, not everyone wishes you well." Clara nodded, aware of the truth behind his words. "I'll be careful. I'm ready to take the leap." Soon, they prepared to depart. With her satchel snug against her side and Jake at her side, Clara took one last look at the town that had cradled her for so long. The familiar shadows of doubt flickered but were pushed aside by waves of hope. As they headed towards the horizon, a new adventure unfolding before them, Clara felt the weight of change pressing against her chest. It was exhilarating. The mountains loomed ahead like giants, a promise of danger and possibilities. With every step, she felt more alive, but trouble wasn't far behind. As they trudged along the rocky path, the silence of the hills was abruptly interrupted by the distant sound of galloping hooves. Clara turned, her heart racing as a group of riders emerged from the dust clouded behind them. The unmistakable glint of metal marked them as lawmen, their badges catching the sunlight. Jake immediately raised an arm, signaling for Clara to hide behind a boulder. "Stay low and quiet," he whispered, tension lacing his voice. Clara's heart pounded loudly in her ears as she crouched behind rock, her vision narrowed on the oncoming riders. "What do you think they want?" she murmured, anxiety prickling her skin, probably scouring for any signs of trouble. "Stay still." The men rode past, their eyes scanning the area, searching for clues. Clara held her breath as they approached, the clattering of hooves echoing in the stillness. Would they check the area where she had just unearthed the nugget? Each second felt like an eternity. After what felt like hours, the riders continued on, fading into the distance, but the danger had only heightened. Clara felt like an animal caught in a trap, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Are they gone?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Jake peeked around the boulder, assessing the situation. "For now, we need to move quickly before they circle back." Clara nodded, swallowing her fear. "We can't let them find me or the nugget." They hurried down the path, sticking close to the rocks, hearts racing with the thrill and terror of having narrowly escaped. Yet the feeling of urgency did not pass. They needed to cover more ground, and fast. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the rugged landscape, Clara felt a sense of purpose growing stronger within her. Each step away from the town felt like freedom, a step closer to carving her own fate. But with that freedom came a realization. The world was vast and wild, filled with uncertainties. She couldn't let fear control her choices. "Clara," Jake said, breaking her thoughts as they took a respite at the edge of a wooded grove. "What do you really want?" The question hung in the air, brimming with significance. Clara pondered for a moment, looking deep within herself. "I want to forge my own path," she finally replied, voice steady. "I want to be more than just the girl who inherited a land filled with broken promises. I want adventure, purpose, and to not be defined by where I come from." Jake nodded, a knowing look crossing his face. "With that nugget in your pocket, you have a chance to create the life you want. But remember, it won't come easily. Opportunities lie ahead, but they require courage to seize." "I'm ready," Clara declared, her heart racing with determination. "No more hiding." As darkness fell over the mountains, they found a small clearing with an old fire pit, remnants of past travelers lingering in the air. Together, they set camp, the flickering light of a fire mirrored by the unwavering flame within Clara's heart. Under a sky sprinkled with stars, she realized this was just the beginning of her adventure, a journey where she would no longer fear the shadows of the past, but embrace the possibilities ahead. With the nugget safe and her spirit unyielding, Clara was ready to claim her destiny, come what may. Each moment was an opportunity, every step a chance to rewrite her story in a wild and untamed land. The horizon awaited her, vast and endless. Clara could almost hear it calling. As dawn broke over the rugged terrain, Clara stirred awake to the sweet scent of pine and smoke. The fire had dwindled overnight, leaving a warm glow that danced in the cool morning air. She blinked against the sun, feeling the weight of possibility resting over her shoulders. "Morning," Jake greeted with a smile as he stoked the fire back to life. "Ready for today?" Clara nodded, determination settling in her chest. Today is the day we find our way forward. After a simple breakfast of hardtack and jerky, they packed their makeshift camp, each motion filled with purpose. Clara felt the nugget securely tucked in her satchel, a tangible reminder of how far she had come and the life she desired to create. They mapped out their route, choosing a path toward a nearby town known for its trade in precious metals. It would be their first test, a step into a new world where her find could transform her dreams into reality. Yet, there was an underlying anxiety that clung to Clara as they set off. The vast wilderness stretched before them, beautiful yet intimidating. As they trekked, conversation flowed easily, the tension easing with shared laughter and stories. Jake recounted tales of his travels, colorful characters he had met along the way, and the lessons he had learned. Each laugh made the uncertainty feel a little lighter, stirring Clara's spirit with dreams of her own adventures. "Life on the road can be hard," Jake said, glancing at Clara. "But it's better when you have someone to share it with. Makes the struggles worth it." Clara returned his look, her heart fluttering at the warmth in his eyes. "I've always felt alone in this world, like I was carrying the weight of my dreams without anyone beside me. It's nice to have someone who understands." Jake smiled, a knowing glimmer in his eyes. "Together we can face whatever comes our way." With that, They continued their journey, the scenery shifting with each step. As they approached the nearby town, Clara's heart raced with anticipation. She took in the sight of bustling streets and the sounds of life around her, a stark contrast to the solitude of her previous days. They arrived just as the sun reached its zenith, a warm embrace that signaled new beginnings. Vendors hawked their goods, carts laden with everything from fresh produce to handmade trinkets. For a moment, Clara felt overwhelmed. The vibrancy buzzed around her like a swarm of bees, each sound echoing her heartbeat. "Let's head to the trading post," Jake suggested, pulling her gently toward one of the larger buildings. "That's where you can get the best deal." With a deep breath to steady herself, Clara pushed through the threshold into the trading post. Inside, the air was thick with the scents of leather and spices, and Clara's eyes widened with curiosity. Shelves lined with goods stretched to the ceiling, each corner brimming with treasures waiting to be discovered. The owner, a stout man with a bushy beard and a welcoming grin, greeted them as they entered. "Well, what can I do for you folks today?" Clara felt a knot in her stomach as she prepared to share her secret. "I have something to trade," she managed, digging into her satchel. The owner raised an eyebrow, intrigued as Clara produced the gold nugget, holding it up as light danced off its polished surface. "This here is quite the find, young lady," he said, his demeanor shifting to one of respect. "Where'd you say you got this from?" "From the hills just outside town," Clara replied, trying to sound confident despite the vulnerability clawing at her. "Right under our noses, eh? Well, you came to the right place. I can give you a fair price, but you might want to consider holding on to it a while longer. Gold's only getting more precious, and I can help you find the best buyers." "That's good to know," Clara said, a flicker of hope igniting within her. "I have plans, but I need to make sure I'm taking the right steps first." The owner gestured for her to follow him to the back of the shop. "Let's talk numbers and potential. I might have a few contacts who'd be interested in something like this." As they discussed the nugget's value, Clara felt a surge of exhilarating possibilities. This was her chance to reclaim control of her life, to take the dreams once shared with her late father and breathe new life into them. Every moment of struggle began to melt away, replaced by a flickering flame of hope. Jake stood nearby, watching with pride. After quick negotiations, Clara secured a deal that not only promised a substantial profit, but also established a relationship with the trading post owner, who offered resources for her future endeavors. Upon exiting the shop, Clara felt giddy with excitement. The sun overhead shone brighter, and the town no longer felt intimidating, but instead a place ripe with opportunity. "I can't believe how well that went," she exclaimed, barely able to keep her feet still. Jake grinned. "You did good, Clara. This is just the beginning." But as they turned the corner, they were met with a scene that froze Clara's blood. A group of rough-looking men loitered at the edge of the saloon, eyeing Clara with predatory curiosity. Their laughter was loud and threatening, and Clara's heart raced anew. They were the type who thrived on chaos, and the gleam of her nugget seemed to call them. "Keep your head down," Jake murmured, sensing her unease. "We'll avoid them." But one of the men, a tall figure with a scar running down his cheek, took a step forward, blocking their path. "Well, well, what's this? Little lady out here with a shiny piece of gold? You best watch that thing, or it might just disappear." Clara felt her breath catch, but she straightened her shoulders, refusing to show fear. "It's mine, and I'll do with it as I please." The man chuckled, a dark sound that sent a shiver down her spine. "That's cute, sweetheart. But things have a way of changing around here. Best make sure not to draw too much attention." Jake stepped protectively in front of Clara, his stance solid and unwavering. "She's not looking for trouble, and neither are we. Let us pass." The man's smile widened, but his eyes were cold. "Not so fast, buddy. How about we take that nugget off your hands? You won't need it where you're going." Clara's heart raced as she realized the situation was escalating. She had to act fast. "Let's not make this harder than it needs to be." She glanced at Jake, who shifted his stance, ready to defend her. "Just forget it," Clara shouted, surprising even herself. "I'm not handing it over." "I earned this." The tall man chuckled again, but this time it was mixed with annoyance. "You're a brave little thing, aren't you? But bravery doesn't always win fights." Suddenly, with a swift movement, he lunged towards Clara. Without thinking, Clara grabbed a nearby stone and hurled it at him, catching him off guard. The stone struck his shoulder, and he staggered back, momentarily stunned. In that instant, Jake took action, moving to Clara's side as the other men abruptly turned their attention to them. "Run!" he shouted, adrenaline fueling his voice. Clara didn't hesitate. Together, they bolted down the street, dodging through the bustling crowd as shouts erupted behind them. The sense of danger was palpable, urgency pulsing through both of them. As they sprinted, Clara couldn't help but feel the weight of her choices. The desire for a chance at freedom, to be more than just a girl in a dying town, was leading her into the heart of danger. Yet, even through the fear, she recognized something profound. She was fighting for her future, and no one would take that from her. They dashed into an alley, lungs straining as they sought refuge among the shadows. Breathless, Clara glanced at Jake, who remained vigilant, listening for echoes of their pursuers. "Have you ever been in a situation like this before?" Clara panted, disbelief still racing through her mind. "Not like this," Jake admitted, smirking despite the chaos surrounding them. "But it seems our adventure just got a lot wilder." With gritted teeth, Clara focused on the moment, echoing a sense of excitement rising from within. They had escaped for now, but she promised herself she would not let fear dictate her journey. They were in this together, and whatever lay ahead they would face it side by side. As she peered cautiously from the shadows, Clara felt the full force of the Wild West envelop her, more thrilling than she could have ever imagined. Each heartbeat was a promise of challenges, dreams, and a life that waited just beyond the horizon. Together, they would carve their path through the wilderness, one step at a time, unyielding and fierce. As the sound of pursuit faded into the distance, Clara and Jake cautiously stepped into the light, hearts still racing from the adrenaline. They had narrowly escaped, but uncertainty lurked in every shadow. "Are we in the clear?" Clara asked, her breath coming in ragged bursts. "For now," Jake said, glancing back down the alley, his expression serious. "But we can't stay here for long. They'll be looking for you." Clara's mind raced with a whirlwind of thoughts. Her father, the Nugget, the dream of freedom now tinged with danger. "We need a plan," she said, determination surging through her. Jake nodded, gratitude shining in his eyes. "You're right. We'll get out of town and find a safe place to regroup. This time we'll be smarter." As they made their way through the winding streets of the trading town, Clara couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on her. The atmosphere was thick with suspicion and curiosity, but she held her head high, drawing strength from her newfound courage. "Let's head toward the river," Jake suggested. "It'll be less crowded, and we can find a place to hide there." The riverbank lay on the outskirts of town, where the sounds of commerce faded into the gentle rush of water. As they approached, the setting began to feel more peaceful. Clara took in the beauty around her, the soft rustle of leaves, the glimmer of sunlight on flowing water. "Not too far now," Jake urged, leading her toward a cluster of trees that provided shelter from prying eyes. They settled in, hearts still pounding, but the fresh air bolstering their spirits. Clara looked at Jake, grateful for his presence. "Thank you for protecting me back there. I don't know what I would have done without you." Jake shrugged, dismissing the sentiment. "We're in this together. I won't let anyone hurt you." He paused, studying her expression. "But we need to talk about your Nugget. If word gets around that you have it, those men will come after you. They're the type who won't stop until they get what they want." Clara nodded, recognizing the gravity of the situation. "I've been thinking perhaps we should use it as leverage. I can't just sell it straight away, or let it draw more trouble." "Exactly," he encouraged. "We can find a way to turn it into something else, something that can ensure your safety and our freedom." "What about the chief of the town? He could offer protection if he knows the story behind the Nugget." Jake raised an eyebrow. "If he's anything like the previous men you encountered, he might want to take it for himself. But we could explore other routes, traders, outlaws, anyone who understands its value." Clara considered that carefully. "Outlaws could be too risky. They might have their own agendas, and I don't want to end up on the wrong side of their dealings." "Fair point, but we have to find someone who can appreciate the Nugget for what it is. A second chance." The two lapsed into thoughtful silence, the gentle sound of flowing water calming their frayed nerves. Finally, Clara broke the quiet, her eyes lighting up with a new idea. "What if we traveled to the larger city past here? I heard they had a marketplace filled with people from all walks of life. Anonymity might work in our favor." "I like it," Jake said, nodding. "It'll mean getting on a stagecoach. And that could be a little conspicuous, but it's a risk worth taking. Clara's heart raced at the thought of leaving the town behind. Then let's do it. We'll head out at sunset when it's less crowded. The plan set an electric thrill in the air. They spent the next few hours gathering more supplies from the riverbank. A couple of blankets, some food, and a small canteen of water. Clara felt a renewed sense of purpose surging through her. The river, once a reminder of her hardships, had become a symbol of the flow of her new life. As the sun began setting, they quietly slipped away from their hideout, merging with the shadows cast by the fading light. The town was stirring, the clamour of the saloon mixing with the laughter of children playing near the square. But Clara kept her focus firmly on the task ahead. By the time they reached the stagecoach depot, dusk had draped the land in a comforting shroud. Lanterns flickered to life, casting soft, warm glows that danced against the gathering night. "We'll blend in with the crowd," Jake reassured her, taking her hand as they approached the busier outskirts of the depot. "I'll watch for any signs of those men," Clara said, scanning the area. They could still be lurking around. With careful steps, they maneuvered through the growing number of townsfolk, the sound of horses and bustling traders filling the air. It wasn't long before they identified an old stagecoach, its worn wooden frame creaking under the weight of the past, ready to embark toward the city. "Tickets, please," a portly driver called, his demeanor burly but grinning. Clara felt her pulse quicken at the thought of stepping into the unknown. "2 tickets to the city," Jake said, stepping forward with a bright smile. "Couple of brave souls looking for a new start, eh?" "Something like that," Jake replied, winking at Clara, who offered a shy smile in return. As they boarded, Clara took a moment to breathe deeply. This was the beginning, the first shift away from the life that once felt so heavy on her shoulders. The coach lurched as they settled in, the sound of hoofbeats echoing through the quiet night. The journey began, a mix of excitement and trepidation filling the carriage. With each bump and sway, Clara felt hope coursing through her veins. She was free now, and no one could dictate her worth or her future. Through the window, the scenery blurred, stars twinkling in the dark sky, each one a dream waiting to be realized. Clara held the nugget close to her heart, a treasure that was more than just gold. It symbolized resilience, the courage to chase the life she truly desired. As they traveled on toward the horizon, she glanced at Jake, who was gazing thoughtfully out the window, a soft smile playing on his lips. "Do you think we'll ever look back?" she asked. Jake turned to her, sincerity in his voice. "Only to remind ourselves of how far we've come. The future is unwritten, Clara. Let's make it a story worth telling." In that moment she knew with absolute certainty this was just the beginning. The Wild West awaited, and they were ready to carve their path through it together. No longer haunted by the shadows of her past, Clara embraced the promise of tomorrow, her spirit soaring as they rode onward into the unknown.